My name is Harumo Nakajima, and this happened to me when I went on a camping trip with two of my friends in the mountain areas of western Japan. I won't say what area I was in, nor will I say the name of the mountain, because I don't want anything bad happening to anyone else. I had never been camping before, so I was very excited to go. Even though the area we were camping in was said to be home to many yokai spirits, we weren't really all that worried, because nobody really believed in that kind of stuff anymore, except for maybe my grandmother. Anyway, the first night was fun, and my two friends got very drunk, so they decided to turn in for the night. I didn't drink much, because I have a weak stomach, so I wasn't tired at all, and decided to stay out and just enjoy the outdoors. As I looked up further towards the upper mountain area, I could make out an orange glow and could see some smoke coming from the same place. I remember the man at the entrance of the woods telling me and my friends that an older couple had also decided to come out here as well, perhaps for their anniversary or something, so that campfire must have been theirs. Other than the light coming from our fire, the rest of the forest was pitch black. I could barely make out other mountain tops from the moonlight. Soon enough, I felt myself begin to grow very drowsy, and I nodded off for maybe a few seconds. When I opened my eyes, I saw something or someone sitting across from me on the opposite side of the campfire. Still till this day, I can't fully explain to you what I saw. I could barely make out the person's face, which was strange, because if a person sits in front of a campfire, then you'd clearly be able to see who it was, right? But this person's face, no, their entire body appeared to be all black. It was almost as if they blended in perfectly to the forest background. I assumed that maybe my friend Kazuma had woken up and came to join me. He had issues of waking up and not being able to fall back asleep again, so I called out to him. "Kazuma, you can't sleep?" I was about to rub my eyes to get a better look at him, till Kazuma responded. "Will you sleep?" That didn't sound like Kazuma's voice, but oddly, I didn't scream or freak out about it. I knew something wasn't right, but more than fear, this feeling of deep drowsiness began to take over my body. It's as though my body reacted to his voice by suddenly feeling really sleepy. I responded, "No, I'm not sleepy." I lied. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to lie for some reason. "You look sleepy. Why don't you put out the fire and go to sleep?" I don't want to sleep yet. I want to stay up and watch the fire. Why did this person want me to put out the fire? Was he a ranger or someone in charge of keeping this area safe from forest fires? I was prepared to tell him that this was a free area and that there are other people out with campfires besides us. I tried to find the spot where I saw the older couple's campfire, but I couldn't see it anymore. They must have already put theirs out and went to bed. It was almost as if this person was reading my mind, 'cause then he said, "Everyone has put out their fire. You should do the same and go to sleep." Once again, at the sound of his voice, I felt like I was going to drop backwards into a deep sleep. My body felt so heavy, and it must have been really late. but something inside me started to get a little afraid. No, I'm not sleepy. Why do you want me to put out the fire? The figure ignored my question and said, If you won't put it out, then I can do it for you. Go to sleep. No, you don't have to do that. I don't want you to put out the fire. I'll put it out so you can sleep. At this point, I knew something was very wrong with how suddenly my body was reacting to his voice. Did this guy sneak into our camp and drug our food and drinks somehow? Is that why I couldn't really see what he looked like? I began to panic, and I took out my lighter I was carrying in my pocket. If you put out this fire, I'll just start another one just as fast. I was struggling to keep myself awake. I didn't know what was happening, but my instincts were screaming out not to fall asleep with this guy still here. The figure didn't move, nor did it say anything for at least a good 10 seconds. I began to open my mouth to tell it to go away, but finally it spoke. I can hold the lighter for you, so you can sleep, and I'll put out the fire. I felt my blood boil, and I got really angry. This time I was yelling. Even though I felt terrified about what this guy was planning to do, I tried to put up a strong front. I'm not going to put out this fire, and I won't let you put this fire out either. Stop asking me over and over again, and just leave me alone. Go away. The figure once again didn't move, and didn't say anything for longer than 10 seconds this time. I found myself staring into its pitch-black, eyeless face. Suddenly, it stood up abruptly, as though it was going to lunge at me. I flinched and shielded myself with my arms, and closed my eyes tightly. I felt a gust of wind around me, and when the wind passed, I opened my eyes again. And the figure was gone. But you won't put out the fire. Goodbye. Its voice faded into the night sounds of the forest. I was alone again, thank God. But then I felt someone's hand on my shoulder from behind. It spun me around and I screamed in panic. Who are you talking to? And why are you screaming? It wasn't that thing. It was Kazuma. I must have woken him up. I apologized and told him what happened. My other friend came out of his tent and had overheard my story. They both seemed to not believe me, but they didn't really protest when I demanded that we keep the fire going till the first light of morning. The next morning, we hurried out of the forest entrance, and I packed everything into the car as fast as I could and slammed the door shut. My friends looked more afraid of me than any spirit, but I didn't care. I sped out of the driveway, bumping into that older couple's car a bit, but as I said before, I didn't care. I sped away as a surprised-looking forest caretaker bent over to look at the damaged car in the rearview mirror. A week later, I was watching a news report at my family's house when I was visiting them for the weekend. I didn't tell my parents about the black spirit I saw, but I did tell my grandmother, who seemed to be the only person who'd believe me. It was me, my father, and grandmother watching the program. My mother was out shopping with my little sister. When I saw the area that the report was about, I nearly threw up. It was the same mountain area that I was at last week. But it gets worse. The news report wasn't on the area itself, but on that older couple whose car was still there. They had gone missing, and a search party had found their campsite and found no signs of a struggle or anything. But no bodies were found either. I spun my head towards my grandmother, who was also looking at me with a worried expression. My dad looked up from his book and asked if that was the same place I was at. But my grandmother had already said she needed my help with something and dragged me out of the living room. She told me that there were many different types of spirits and yokai. Some we know of, but others are harder to understand. She herself, with all her knowledge, had never heard of such a spirit before. She was honest and told me she had no idea what that black spirit wanted from me. But it was a good thing that I didn't fall asleep and that I didn't put out the fire.